Hey guys. So just wanted to continue on with our chapter 5, section 2 stuff. I'm going to talk about the Boston Massacre and a couple other things with this video. Just want to let you know things are starting to ramp up here because not only are the British taxing the colonists, and the colonists are feeling like, well, this is way too much. We should not be getting taxed on all these things. And so the colonists are starting to use protests, right? Boycotting, petitioning their government, writing letters, writing letters to their government, and the government does respond, right? But then the government goes back and does other things. They're reinforcing these taxes on imports, those duties, right? And they're also issuing these writs of assistance, which are um, allowing customs officials to go on people's boats and search their boats without any good reason, and the colonists see all of these things as a violation of their rights. Okay, so things are not looking good. And then we saw that there are more boycotts that are happening after the Townshend Acts. Things aren't looking good. So things, like I mentioned before, things are tense. Okay. So let's scroll down. So where we left off, the colonists boycotted British goods. Once again, the protests worked. The boycott hurt British merchants and manufacturers who put pressure on Parliament. So I'm going to talk about that again because this is how it worked, guys. So what you have Britain, which is across the ocean, and then you have Britain's colonies, which are here in America. There's a whole ocean between them, and the colonies are newer, right? They haven't been around as long, and they need and they need products. And a lot of the products that they need come from Britain. The products that they use come from Britain. So in Britain, you got to love the colonies because they are a whole market of people that are buying your stuff. Imagine that you own a factory in Britain, and that factory makes, let's say, lamps. Okay, you know that as the population in America grows, in the American colonies, as that population grows, what are you going to sell more of? Lamps. So you're doing well. Let's say you live in London, you own a factory, you're making lamps, and you're shipping them over to the colonies, right? Well, what's been happening over in the colonies? Colonists are getting mad at the king, and they start to protest, and they're boycotting British goods. And so you're just this guy that you own a factory that makes lamps, and you realize, wow, these people in the colonies are not buying my lamps anymore. And that doesn't have anything to do with me. They're not mad at me. They're mad at the king, but they're not buying my lamps. So what do? I want the colonists to be happy, so they go back to buying stuff from Britain. And so what can I do? Well, I'm going to complain to the king, and I'm going to complain to Parliament to stop bothering the colonists, right? And that's what happened. So people like these factory owners, and what did this say? The British merchants and manufacturers put pressure on Parliament to stop the taxes, or to stop the taxes, and it worked. So those protests that the colonists were doing affected the business people in Britain. So the business people in Britain went to the king and said, "Stop ticking off the colonists." So let's see what happened. Up here at the top, on March 5th, 1770, Parliament repealed all of the Townshend duties. So all of those import taxes, they said, okay, we're going to cancel all the import taxes except one. And it was the one on tea. And why is that important? It's important because every single person in the colonies consumes tea. It's like coffee today in America, okay? Back then it was tea. Everyone drank their tea. So they repealed all the Townshend duties except the one on tea. That tax was left in force to demonstrate Parliament's right to tax the colonies. So why did Parliament do the T-tax just to say we can tax you if we want to. Okay? It was left in force to demonstrate that Parliament had the power and they had the right to tax the colonies if they wanted to. Do you think the colonists were real happy about that? No, they weren't. So let's go to the top here. Parliament had not acted in time. On March 5th, 1770, in Boston. So make sure that I'm in the right spot here. Okay, yep. So you got a lot of colonists that are not happy. They're not happy for a lot of reasons. They're not happy with the taxes. They're not happy that there are British soldiers just around all the time, especially in Boston. You got soldiers that are around. Remember the Quartering Act? People are forced to let British soldiers live on their property for free and to give them supplies if they needed it. So you got a lot of people that are just, they're not real happy with the British government and the fact that there's soldiers around, they're getting taxed all the time. So you can imagine if you're a colonist and you see those British soldiers walking around your town in Boston, you're going to be glaring at them a lot. You might even holler at them once in a while. So let's check out what happens. On March 5th, 1770 in Boston, an angry crowd of workers and sailors surrounded a small group of soldiers. They shouted at the soldiers and threw snowballs and rocks at them. The frightened soldiers fired into the crowd, killing 5 and wounding 6. Not good. The first to fall for the cause of American independence was Crispus Attucks, an African-American sailor. Governor of Massachusetts, Tom Hutchison, tried to calm things down by having the 9 soldiers involved in the shooting arrested and tried for murder. Who was the lawyer for those soldiers? It was John Adams. And you might think, wait, John Adams, isn't he trying to help the American Revolution? Well, he was a lawyer though, and he felt that even soldiers that you didn't like deserve a trial, right? If you're accused of something. So John Adams, a well-known Massachusetts lawyer, defended them. Adams was also a leading defender of colonial rights against British policy. So he would be in trials against British, but he was also representing the British soldiers. He took the unpopular case, because he believed that in a free country, every person accused of a crime had the right to a lawyer and a fair trial. Only 2 soldiers were convicted. Their punishment was having their thumbs branded. So they took like a hot iron and branded their thumbs as their punishment. Why did they do that? Because you can't get rid of scars on your thumbs, and that would be the symbol that that person had murdered someone. Okay? Didn't seem like quite enough of a punishment to a lot of people. All right, the committees of correspondence. As tensions grew, colonial leaders saw the need to keep in closer contact with people in other colonies. So things are ramping up, right? Things are getting bad from this colony to this colony and this colony, and the British soldiers are around. You got more taxes. People are getting in scuffles. And so the colonists are trying to figure out, we got to start communicating with each other better. Because if something goes down in Boston, we want to be able to tell people in Philadelphia, and we want to be able to tell people down in Virginia if something bad is happening, if the soldiers are acting inappropriately, or if we want to protest something, we want to be able to shoot you a letter so that you guys do it down in Georgia or North Carolina as well. So what happened? After the Boston Massacre, Samuel Adams, a cousin of John Adams, established what he called a committee of correspondence, right? A committee is a group. Correspondence means you're communicating from a long distance. So the committee of correspondence is a group of people that are communicating back and forth. The aim was to keep colonists informed of British actions so they could tell each other if the British are doing something they don't like. Soon committees were sprouting in other colonies. The committees wrote letters and pamphlets to spread the alarm whenever the British tried to enforce unpopular acts of Parliament, right? Anything the British tried to do something the colonists didn't like, the colonists would zip a letter or zip a pamphlet to the other colonies to keep communication up. This way, the committees helped unite the colonists against Britain. Hope that helps. I think that wraps up Chapter 5, Section 2. I really hope you guys watch these, and if you have questions,